Let's tile our coffee nook. Hey everyone, welcome back to Hello Pumpkin Studios. Today we are finally tiling our coffee nook. In previous videos, we put in these cabinets, we got the granite delivered, and it's kind of just been sitting this way for some time now. And today is finally the day that we're going to tile the backsplash here in our coffee nook. We actually had some leftover tile. This is 4x16 tile that we're going to put up, and we're going to put these about 4 high, excuse me. But this is what we're going to use in here. It matches the rest of the kitchen. These ones are a little bit longer and bigger than what we have in the rest of the kitchen, but we wanted this separate in this coffee nook just because it's separate from the kitchen, divided by our refrigerator. And then also in a future video, we're probably going to put up some floating shelves. So let's get to this job.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, fuck everybody, just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
We got our coffee nook all cleared off, coffee pots are gone, all the other stuff's gone. And what I recommend is putting out a sheet because tiling can make a heck of a mess. So we just have this kind of drop cloth sheet that we have just for other projects. So I recommend putting this down over top of your tile. You can also use cardboard or ram board that you can pick up at Home Depot or Lowe's, but we usually just use this. So we'll cover the granite with this all the way across. And also you're going to want to take off your light plate covers or your, I guess, switch covers or your plug covers, so that way you can tile up to it, and then this will be covered, like your tile will be covered behind the light switch cover. What we just did is we laid out the tile the way we're going to want to have it laying on the wall on the granite, just so then we know that we have enough space at the corners, so that way we don't have to adjust our measurements. So ultimately we are able to do a full piece, a half a piece, and then it'll tile all the way down into the corner. And then also the next step that we're going to do is we are going to put, instead of doing a bullnose tile for the end, we are going to use the PVC tile trim that's a 3/8 inch thick. So we'll put the bullnose on, then we'll tile across, and then we'll have bullnose across the top. And then we have the other end that we're going to use as well. In the garage now, and what I did is I set up my Ryobi table saw, or my Ryobi wet tile saw. And basically what I did is I put the rip fence on, because basically I'm going to rip one of the boards in half, because the first side is going to be just split 50-50. So that's where we're going to start now. I have my tile cut half because we're going to do half-half is how we're going to start. So full, half, and then ultimately I got my laser level set up because we are going to use the tile trim, PVC tile trim, to match it up to the edge of the countertop. So we're going to start that, cut that, place it, then we'll tile the wall across. And when we get to the top, we'll put the other piece of PVC tile trim across there, and then we'll get to the corner. We'll stop before tiling the corner, and then we'll probably start on this edge, finish this side, and then we'll mess around with the corner as the last step. So a lesson has been learned. You cannot use a miter saw to cut PVC tile trim. Just as an FYI, it'll snap and shatter. What I used was an oscillating tool to cut this at a 45. It's not going to focus, but ultimately that's my 45 for my trim. So I'm starting over there in the corner, going to put the trim in first, then tile across like I mentioned. And then we are using this type 1 adhesive. I picked this up at Lowe's, and for this gallon, it's actually a quart, not a gallon. No, it is a gallon. For this gallon, as the time of recording this, it was like 1698. 1697, something like that. I picked up 2 because I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to need 2 or not, but I'd rather have more than not enough. So we picked up 2 of these, and the only other size it comes in is like a 5 or 10 gallon bucket, and I didn't need that much just for this square footage. So we're going to use that. I also like to use putty knives just because it's easier to get it out of the bucket, and I just like to use that. And then I like a smaller trowel. Like I like this size trowel, and we back butter instead of putting it on the wall. We like to back butter and then put it on. We like this one better just because it's easier to use than it is with the big ones, especially if you're a DIY person like myself. All right, I got my laser level set. I'm going to open up my tile adhesive, lay that piece, and then get the tile in. All right, I got my piece. Just gonna measure out about how high it's gotta go. So about there. And then I'm just going to get to putting some adhesive on the wall. You don't need a lot, you just need all right. Got it on there. Got my piece. Just gonna push it in like that. Wipe off any excess that you might have. I also brought a level just to make sure. And we are perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. So that's on there. Just push it in a little bit. And now we're just going to go back and tile over. All right, now that we got that, I'm going to start laying my tile. And what I said I do is I like the back butter. I think it's so much easier than having to put it on the wall and then scrape it off the wall. I think it's less mess. So you slap it on there. And then I just take my trowel, trowel off the excess. Like so. And what I did is I put spacers down here because we don't want it to be flat against the granite. And then put it right up against there. And just Push her in. Just like that. And on to the next. First row is done. Well, done until the corner. So now I'm going to start on the second row. I just feel like back buttering is so much easier than trying to get it all over the wall and then going it that way. Might not be as quick as back buttering the wall or buttering the wall, but I just like how simple it is because then you come back through once again and just use your notch trowel. And you move right on to putting on the wall. Get your bottom spacers in there first. Then you come back and squeeze her over. Just like that. Just make sure you wiggle her back and forth because you want to make sure that it adheres to the wall. Another helpful tip is using like a speed square because then you can see if you got any lips in it. And then we do have a laser level, but it's not the best. So I just kind of come back through with a bubble level and make sure that they're even. And this always works for me. All right, so this cut was difficult for me. It took me a few times to get it. One, because I miscut. So what I thought was this was the piece, the straight just L, but I forgot that I had to do kind of like a U shape because this one goes too far. Actually, I really screwed up because I thought I only needed like a small piece first, and I was wrong there. So I had to pull it off. Then I thought I needed an L shape. I was wrong again. So I needed a U shape, and then I had to go to my tile saw and keep cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting. So I finally got it. I broke one tile. Didn't waste that tile because I could probably use it in a different spot, but now we're back to it, and we're gonna put this one up. So we're starting on our last row. As you can see, we're perfectly measured over here with the spacer. So basically you have two options. You can tile this all the way across and then put the border on top of it, which that's the way we're gonna do it, is we're gonna tile it all the way across and then I'll put the border back down in there so that I know it's perfect. All right, so that side is done. We got the top on, and now we're starting over here. Got my level, got my edge, and we're gonna tile this side. All righty, that's gonna do it. And we will see you in 24 hours when this all sets up so we can grout. It's been 24 hours. It's set up nice and hard, not going anywhere. So now we can take the spacers out just like so. You just go around. I'm not going to do them all because the wife likes to take them out more. But one thing that you can do is there will be some sediment that sits on it. So what we've done in the past is we've let these soak, but probably not this time because it doesn't look like there's that much on there. So this was just drywall before we decided to put a backsplash on it. So when the house was built, they just put the light switches flush to the drywall like they should. And since this tile is about, I'd say 3/8 of an inch thick, give or take, we have to bump these light switches out. So we had to go buy these outlet spacers. They come in a pack of 5 and you can pull them up. They look like this at Home Depot. They're really expensive. This is $6 for 5 of them, which I think is a little outrageous. But basically what they do is they accordion on themselves like so. And you can bump them all the way out pretty far. There's a set of 8 that they accordion together. We've already predetermined that we're going to need 3 of them, because basically what we're going to do is bump this out to be flush with the tile, and then that way the faceplate can sit right on top of that. Just something to keep in mind when you are doing tile is that you are going to have to bump up faceplates, plugs, sometimes internet connections as well. So something to keep in mind here. They also make another different plate that can go all the way around, but we just thought it was easier since this is 3 plugs to do the spacers. Number 1 tip, go turn off the electric to these plugs before touching them. With bumping out this set of switches, your faceplate comes with these like pretty small 1/4 of an inch screw. So one thing you also need to keep in mind is you probably need to upgrade to either a 1/2 inch or 1 inch thick screws. Once again, these are $6 to do this. So these things can add up pretty quickly. You're most likely not going to need 1 inch because we're not bumping it out that far. I think that's when you put these accordions all the way, the 8 of them together. We are thinking that we're going to need these 1/2 inch ones. I just wasn't sure when we were at Home Depot. I'd rather just pick them up and then take them back if I needed to. But just something to keep in mind when you are bumping out electrical panels when you are doing a tile job. All right, so I'm at my breaker box. And it looks like we have 2 different ones. So we have kitchen outlets is 13, and then we also have, where were they at? Kitchen outlets and islands is 16. So I'm ending up going to switch both of those off just to be on the safe side. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. And they're off. I recommend testing your outlet before messing with it, which we did. So we turned it on and off and the light doesn't flip on. So now we know it's safe to work with it. Alright, so now you can see how it's bumped out, just like that. And what I'm going to also do is I'm going to set the camera back down, put the faceplate on, just to make sure it looks right, and see how it's flush. And that's the way you're going to want it. So now I got to do the other 2. All right, so we got them all hooked up. One thing you might have to do is finesse them back and forth just so that they line up with the faceplate. So I got them all hooked up there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and see. Let me set you guys down here. I think you're a little zoomed in. I'll zoom out just a tad. I'm going to see if these screws fit, because I think they screw right into the outlet. So if these fit, yeah. Yep, those fit. So I take back what I said, but one thing you want to make sure is if you might need them just because of how deep if you don't have like the screw connected to your outlet. Since my screw is connected to the outlet, I can still use the normal screws that come with the faceplate. So we got lucky there. All right, it's grouting time. We picked up this Polyblend Plus Rolling Fog is the color at Home Depot. 20 bucks a bag now for this. Unfortunately, we don't need all this, but we're gonna use as much as we. I'm gonna mix some, quite a bit, because the worst part is mixing this and then having to come back and mix again. But a little secret that I find helpful. They like Velcro these bags so tight now. There we go. One thing that I find helpful is grabbing a little cup, like a plastic cup, and just dumping it in, especially since we're not going to need a ton of this. Just count out like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 scoops. Try not to breathe it in too. And then also what I do is grab a second cup and I do like a little water at a time, because ultimately this is going to come together and you want it to be like a paste-like consistency. So you don't want to add too much water. So I do like 2 cups to start and just grab like a trowel and I just mix this together. We're using a trowel because we don't need that much. So I thought I'd just do it by hand.
We also went with this sanded grout and the rolling fog color because this is what is in our kitchen and we want the grout to match the kitchen grout.
This is the consistency that you're looking for. Once you get it there, mix it and then just let it sit for 5 minutes and it'll be time to grout. It's grouting time. She took over. Because this is her favorite part
of doing tile.
You gotta get it in there.
And he took back over. I gave up. My arms got tired.
Dream work makes the team work. Or teamwork makes the dream work? I don't know.
Yep.
Something
Teamwork
like
makes the dream work.
Yeah, what she said. All right, some time's passed and now we've got it all grouted and now Erica's going back through. She wears gloves because we're just taking off just the film that like is like the residual residue from the grout. And basically we have buckets of water. This one's dirty, this one's clean. So like we iterate going through clean and bad water. But yeah, this is where we're at now. It makes a mess, but that's the joys of doing grout and tile work. But yeah, this is what we've always determined is the hardest part, because you got to get the grout consistency right and you got to clean up after it. So this is honestly the hardest part of any tile job.
Yeah. And messy.
And messy. But here's the side that Erica's already got cleaned, and as you can see, it's like perfectly polished. So now we have to wait 2 hours before we can do anything else, and then you have to wait 3 days before you can seal the grout. And then she's over here, and as you can see, there's still a little film over here. So once we get that film all taken off, you can really see it right there. Once we get the film taken off, then we will be able to put the light plate on, And then we're going to come back and we're going to caulk up here on top of the tile trim border.
I will say, if I have one piece of advice when doing the grout, just remain calm, especially if it's your first time doing it, and just keep sponging it, and the grout smear will go away. Because sometimes it's very daunting and overwhelming, and you're like, it's never going to get off the tile, but just keep rinsing your sponge out super often and wiping, and then it definitely will go away. So we
Getting frustrated solves no problems.
Yes,
So.
And we've had our fair share of frustrations, and like we said, we always find the grout the hardest.
And for any problems, the solution is Alexa Fast Drying Caulk. Saves everything. And we've even bought a new build house before, and they use the hell out of this.
Yes. And we like the squeeze tube version because we don't like the caulk guns very much. And so this one's really nice to just use on
This
quick
is Erica's,
fixes.
We'll just be honest, Erica loves to caulk. So this is the one she likes. She doesn't like to pull the trigger of the caulk gun. And for the difference of price, this one's still pliable. Like literally we've had this one for some time and it still comes out.
Yeah.
So you just put the lid on it and it's ready to use when you need it. She lives and dies by this stuff.
I do.
Last step is the Alexa Fast Drying Caulk. We're just caulking the seams because there's like a little gap and it's just easier just to caulk it, let it look more flush against the wall. And I think we said in a previous clip that we like using this one because Erica can just come through and just squeeze it on there.
Slowly but surely.
Say, did it dry out already?
No, I just...
Gotta get it started.
My muscles cleared my hole.
We are back from our technical difficulties.
So I just do like a whole line of it, like thick, pretty thick, I guess. And then when we had our
Granite put in.
Yeah, our countertop put in, I was asking the guy because he made it, the line look so flawless, and he goes over it with, instead of like just his finger, which I have always done, he goes over it with a wet like rag. So that's what I'm going to try this time because his looked like way more flawless than mine ever has with just using my hand. So I'm going to try his little trick. So I have my wet cloth and see how it looks.
Look at that. Flawless. Well, that's going to do it for us for this project. This only actually took us 2 days to complete, start to finish, which I think is great because you basically lay the tile, let it rest for 24 hours, and then go and do the grout. So it's a great weekend project. Thanks for joining us on this project, and we'll see you around on the next project.